to another episode of Boosted Rolls, a War Machine and Hordes podcast focused on EU meta, tournaments, and stuff like that. My name is Tomasz, and I play Circle.
Right, I'm Simon, and I play Legion.
And today with us is the first returning guest.
Yeah, I am Johan. I played Crucible Guard at least, what we're talking about.
Alright. Johan is with us because he recently won BonesCon in Guildford, and Simon was also there.
Yay! Yeah, it was a great tournament, yeah.
Alright, before we start, Johan, can you tell us something about upcoming tournaments in EMEA?
Yes, we have a local tournament coming up here in May, so it's the first weekend of May, 4th and 5th. There might be some casual games going on the evening on 3rd as well, but the main things will happen on 4th and 5th. And yeah, it's a convention-style thing, but only over 2 days, so it's a lot of different games. War Machine is one of them. And we'll be doing 2 steamrollers on or possibly masters, depending on if we get the official masters or not, on Saturday. One starting in the morning and another one starting after lunch, so you can potentially drop out after the first one and join the second one. And then people will qualify from those 2 to an invitational on the Sunday, and then we'll do another event. It's either Scramblers or Hardcore on the Sunday. We aren't 100% decided yet. But there will be
for those who don't know, do you want to give a quick description of what a scramble or a hardcore is?
Yep. So a scrambler is just 8-man steamrollers, basically. So people can join in. So it's a smaller tournament. And the reason we're doing this is, as usual, the Sundays you have to have a bit tighter schedule to get people on their flights and so on. So it's either 3 games in 8-man steamrollers, or the hardcore is done with shorter time limits. I think we do 42 minutes. A death clock on a 75-point game, and in that case we can fit 4 games in, so we can play a few more games and get more people in the same tournament. So it's still in the air a bit. We'll get back to you on exact details of that.
Cool.
And also, we can probably manage some housing and so on for people if they are interested. So get in touch with me if you want somewhere to sleep. So we can cut the costs a bit. It's a bit of a far flight, but we hope that cutting the housing costs can help people make it a bit more affordable.
Yeah, you mentioned it's a local tournament, but I don't think you actually said where it is.
In Umeå, in Sweden, so north of Sweden. Basically fly through either Stockholm or Helsinki to get here. Would be my recommendation.
Yeah, and I think you're definitely going, I'm definitely going. Tomasz, are you going to this one?
Yeah, I think I'm going there.
Oh, sweet. So we're all going. So there you go. We've got at least 3 of us. That's a start.
I might not be playing. I think I will probably be the reserve player, since I'm organizing as well. So I'll be stepping in if it's uneven, is what I think will happen. Just to make sure everybody else can play.
Gotcha. Cool.
All right, so let's move on. Let's talk about BonesCon. And as usual, let's start with the event organization, the venue, travel, and stuff like that. Johan?
So BonesCon is what was before SmogCon, and it's been in London originally, and then moved away to somewhere I couldn't get to reasonably, and then it's back in roughly London now. So it's a 3-day event, and we flew down, me and 2 other guys from Umeå here, flew down on Thursday evening, arrived pretty late, so not too much happening on the Thursday evening. Then, we got our games going on Friday morning, and then went for the weekend.
All right. And how was the venue?
The venue is really nice. I was there before. It was in the same venue a few years ago, the first one I went to, actually. And I think the venue is really nice. It's a nice hotel with nice event hall where we're playing. Ventilation is a little bit iffy in the basement there where we're playing, but overall I think it's a really nice place to play in.
Basement's a strong word, because it is while it's accurate, so you do go down 2 or 3 flights of stairs just to get to the room. The room is enormous. It's like a ballroom, and so therefore you're expecting the sort of better air quality. When you've got those really big booming rooms, you're sort of thinking this is going to be good. It shouldn't be too hot. And then about round 2, I was sweating my balls off. It was not good. It wasn't terrible. It's not like, oh God, I'm not going again. But I think it was just a surprise. The room was so big, it looked like it was going to be so good. And then the air quality did suffer a bit. Yeah. But in terms of like, I mean, you mentioned like logistics and travel and so on. That was all pretty good. Like we most of us flew into Gatwick, so lots of cheap flights to there, and then it was about a 40-minute train. We actually ended up like missing the last train of the day because our flight got delayed, and we had to take an Uber. But between 3 people, the price was about the same as the train ticket. So, you know, not too bad, really. And the town was lovely. I was traveling with a guy from Czech Republic who hadn't really been to the UK at all, maybe. So Luděk, for people who maybe know him, Circle player from Czech, or he was Conversions before, but now Circle. Traitor. And but he was just walking around with like wide eyes, looking at all the red brick buildings and, you know, the traditional English pubs and all that sort of typical British stuff that I just totally ignored. but he was really enjoying it all, and you know the fact that you get a beer that's got no foam on the top. So he was laughing at that and all the sort of little British quirks that I didn't even notice. So I think a lot of people who weren't from the UK really enjoyed the tournament from that side.
Yeah, I have to agree. Like London just has connections to everywhere, so it's really easy to get to, and as we said, it's like a 40-minute train from the airport. And it was also, you could either stay at the venue, like the hotel, or we grabbed an Airbnb in like 5-minute walking distance to save a bit of money, but it was also really good.
Yeah, we did the same thing. We were staying like 10 minutes away. It was good. How did you think about the organisation?
I think it was a bit questionable at some points.
Yeah.
First of all, we had like the Masters were cut down to only 32 people. Which I didn't really understand, since I feel like we could easily fit the other people who wanted to play in the Masters as well, and just play an extra round. Because the Masters only played for 3 rounds, so we played until we had 4 undefeated to qualify. And I think this made a lot of sense before, when BonesCon was a really big convention. I think the Masters were up at 128 players. And then it makes sense to play 5 games and cut to the top 4. Because you don't have time. Then we played 5 games.
Oh, yeah, that right. Yeah, okay, yeah.
So then it makes sense, because you don't have the time to play 7 games in one day and then, you know, new tournament next day. So then it made some sense. I just think they kept around the same idea, even if it was, you know, a quarter of the size, which doesn't really make too much sense. I would have preferred to play the tournaments out, to have some more games, because the only organized tournaments went for 3 rounds, from 10 to 5, and we were kind of done. And at least me, when I go to a big event like this and I travel, I prefer to get more games in, and especially tournament games. It's really nice to get a few ones in.
Yeah. I mean, there was such a field of players. Like it would have been a real shame not to keep playing. I mean, like from my point of view, I thought John Barry Williams, I think it was is the full name, but I don't know which one he prefers, so I'll give them all, and they might even be wrong. I don't know. But I thought he was getting judge shouted at him every 3 seconds. He was like basically solo organizing the whole thing, and getting a lot of stuff done. But like a couple of things did fall through the cracks, you know, probably as a result of that. Like, for example, even though I registered for the Masters months before the tournament, I wasn't actually registered for the Masters. And because I didn't push anything for it, because I knew I was registered. So then when I turned up and was like, hey, which table am I on? They're like, well, you're not in the Masters. It's like, okay, so you can join this steamroller. It's like, well, you know, that's not great, especially since like that weekend was quite crucial for me, because I was using it as like my what's the word, qualification, if you like, for the England WTC teams. You know, it was like, so to be in the Masters was pretty important, and suddenly I wasn't. Luckily, there was a second Masters qualification the next day, so it wasn't like the end of the world. But if it hadn't been, that would have been really pretty bad. Because I personally, I'm there to compete, and steamrollers for me are not really generally that competitive.
Yeah, like traveling to London to play 16-man steamroller is not really what you aim for.
Yeah, it wasn't my thing. And luckily I was saved by you and your Shark Tank tournament in the evening. So for those who don't know, like Johan basically just described it, but the way that the tournament was run was on the first day there was a three-round tournament that started in the morning, finished about 5 o'clock. And 5 o'clock's a bit too early for a lot of us to finish. Like, we want to keep playing. So Johan worked out we could get 2 more games a day in if we had a 4-round tournament over 2 days. and so played 2 games in each evening. And he just asked a few people like, hey, do you fancy, playing some more games in the evening? And of course, all the people that want to play 5 games a day happen to be pretty good. So it ended up filling up with like what looked like an invitationals from a big convention. Like, who do we have? We had the England WTC teams, most of the Swedish WTC players, the Norwegian WTC players, myself, and then a couple of slightly more casual players that I felt a bit sorry for because they, like, even after they lose the first round, normally you lose a round and you're like, oh great, now I get to play against someone who's about my level. And here it was just like, nope. But because of that, we ended up playing about 5 games a day. So that was great, and thanks again for organising that. That was cool.
So how many people total?
We went for 16 players. Since we could only do 4 rounds, I had to cap it at 16 players.
All right.
We had a 16-player steamroller over the 2 evenings. And I do want to say that the organizing of the actual tournament on site, I think, ran smoothly. We had a slight delay on the Friday, but I don't want to take anything away from the guys organizing on site. It's just like the planning beforehand felt a bit questionable.
I think what you said may be absolutely spot on, which is that they just hadn't changed the system from when it used to be a lot more players.
Yeah, I think
I think that's right. I don't think that, as you say, on site they were doing a cracking job. Like, it was great. But as you say, maybe beforehand it could have been tweaked a little bit. Yeah.
All right. So the first day was Masters qualification, right? Tournament.
Yeah. Well, Masters qualification, and for me, Steamroller qualification, because I wasn't in the Masters.
So there were 2 tournaments. Plus
simultaneously.
Plus the tournament that Johan organized.
Precisely.
The second day was another Masters qualification.
Exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same as the first day. So another Steamroller qualification.
Yeah.
Another Masters qualification, which meant you had 4 people qualifying for each tournament from each day. So then on the third day, you had the Masters Invitational and the Steamroller Invitational with 8 players in each.
All right.
And there was no Johan tournament on that day.
No.
All right, so should we move to the games?
Yeah, sure.
The first day you've played in Steamroller, and you, Johan, played in Masters qualification, right?
Yes.
All right, so let's talk about maybe your games, Simon, first.
Sure. So my first game, I'm going to go through most of these pretty quickly, and then I'll obviously just jump into a bit more detail if I think it was worth talking about. So game 1 was against Sondre, a Norwegian Grimkin player playing the Dreamer. I played Callus 1, and we were playing on a pretty live scenario, I think. Do you happen to have the scenarios written down, Johan? I do not.
If you have the same in the Steamroller as we have, it was Invasion.
Then I was either wrong or just misremembering. So I think we may have had the same ones. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Played against the Grimkin, and as I remember, there was a building in the middle.
Right.
And it sort of led him to have to split his brick up a bit, and he couldn't quite get everything exactly where he wanted it. And then my dice just blew up. I think a few Rotwings just murdered a Cage Rager, and stuff like that, stuff that shouldn't happen.
Can we maybe your pairings?
Yeah.
Sorry. I will.
Standard issue.
Yeah, always forget the pairings. Just jump right into the details. So my pairing is Callus 1 and Callus 2. Callus 1 was for that event very standard Jake's List, double chosen, double Rotwings, Blightbringer, and Gudrun the Wanderer, one spell martyr, and Amok with a Harrier for scoring rectangle zones. And Callus 2 is my list with the Archangel, and on this event, which version was I playing? I was playing with a Nerf as well, and then I was playing with Maximum Chosen, Maximum Warmongers with Gorag, the character attachment, then also a unit of Croak Raiders, minimum unit, double Hellmouth, obviously, in both lists, and a couple of Spell Martyrs and a Gobber Chef and Amok.
All right.
So against Grimkin, I think generally speaking we want to be playing Callus 1. Callus 2 does have some armor crack, but a little bit less and a little bit less reliable, I might say. And the idea that like burning things down doesn't really work against such high armor bricks. And so, yeah, I felt Callus 1 was the better choice. In the end, I won on scenario, and I'd say it was quite a bit to do with dice. My opponent was solid, but the dice didn't go his way, and I ended up going ahead. And then Callus 1, when he's ahead, really does sort of start to take the scenario away from you. So that's how it finished.
So maybe you'll finish your tournament first day, and then we'll move to Johan. So how was your second round?
Sure. So I can do the whole steamroller, sure thing. So my second game was against a circle player, and I'm really sorry to the guy if you're listening, but I can't remember who it was. I've racked my brains. I've got 13 games to remember, and I didn't go back and take my notes until a few days after. And I know it was circle. I know I played Callus 2, and I know I won on scenario, but I can't remember for the life of me who it was. So apologies. I can't remember much more than that. So
right.
that was it, really. I think he was playing, if I remember, he was playing some pairing that just didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I'm expecting to just see Iona and Wormwood. Right. And it was something like Morvana and Chromac, or, like some weird stuff. So I was a bit surprised. Played Callus 2 because that's my anti-circle drop, and I just wanted to make sure that I was comfortable into everything in circle with it. So dropped it and ended up just taking a win through. I think he was... like as I said, in the steamroller, not everyone is super competitive, and I felt like he was there to have fun and to play some games, but he wasn't trying to win the whole thing or anything like that. So it was a relatively standard game. Third game went up against Delano Hing, playing minions, and his pairing was Maylock and Rask. And if I remember, have you got the scenario again, Johan, before I'm wrong?
The pit, according to my notes.
I'm not sure we played the same ones,
No, I'm not sure either.
Because I dropped Callus 1 on the assumption that if he played Rask, I'd be in a better position. But he actually dropped Maylock. To be honest, minions don't really have anything that I'm nervous about at all. If I see minions, I'm just happy. And... our first game, he really gave me much more of a game than I was expecting. So I was like, oh, minions, great, lovely, next round. And then actually we ended up having a real grind that went all the way down to the end. But I eventually took it on scenario because, like, the posse, they just can't get enough done. They maybe don't die very quickly, but they don't really do much the rest of the time. And if you can't get the wrestler in on a good target fairly early on, then you just grind him out. And it takes him so long to do all of his activations because he's got so many guys that are all doing bugger all, and they all need to kill 1 million Rotwings and Incubi. And on my feet turn, you could tell he was sort of like, right, should I do something here? Should I bother? Should I kill this or not? And that's the usual reaction. But yeah, I would say not too hard to take down Maylock. I think if I was him, I would have probably tried to play Rask and just always threaten that caster kill and try to play a bit of a trickier game. Because trying to grind out Callus 1 in a very standard way is very, very hard to do.
So every time I hear minions player like have some afterthoughts, I hear like I should drop Rask and just look for an assassination. Every time.
Well, that's what I think their best option is. Their best option is switch faction. But I don't switch faction either, so I understand the people that don't, and I'm not saying like, oh, just switch, you can't do anything. I don't want to be that guy, and I want people who are in their factions to try and find the best things they can. But I really don't think it's Maylock. I just don't. I've never been that impressed by him.
It's Sturm and Drang.
When he first came out.
This is the answer.
Sturm and Drang. Yeah, I think his mate was trying to talk him into playing that at the time. But seriously, I think Sturm and Drang, at least people wouldn't know what you were doing. Yeah. So you've got more chance on clock, you've got more chance of a dodgy caster kill, whereas Maylock, you've got no chance of surprising anyone with anything. And Amok really shut him down because his feat where he goes incorporeal just wasn't happening. Because I ran Amok up the middle, and Maylock just doesn't have any tools to scalpel out a solo. So while he didn't make any mistakes, he just didn't have any super special plays that he could make, and I just don't think you can grind out Callus 1 unless the Callus player makes a mistake with that. So that was the first day of the Steamroller. I ended up 3-0, and qualified for the Invitational on the Sunday.
All right, great. So, Johan, tell us about your pairing.
Yes, we'll start in the right end this time.
Yeah, nicely done there, sir. That was good. You remembered. I was ready for him to just launch into round one.
Yeah. So for the Masters qualifier, the first day I played Silvestro in Prima Materia and Locke also in Prima Materia. And my Silvestro list was 2 Toros, a Vanguard, a Vulcan on Prospero, a Battle Engine, then Combat Alchemist, Alice, and then some like mechanics and transfers to round it out. And Locke was a Vulcan and 2 Toros, a Liberator and a Vanguard on her, and then a Suppressor on Prospero, and then again like a transfer mechanic and some alchemists to round the list out.
All right, so twice, almost the same list twice, but different caster.
They are pretty close, yeah. I have like the Battle Engine in Silvestro and some extra solos instead of the Suppressor and the Liberator for Locke. And it's also the Vulcan is on the Junior in the Silvestro list, which makes a bit of a difference. Guided Fire is really good on him, but Jackhammer is also really good on him.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's. But yeah, they're pretty similar, but very different casters, I would say. So.
All right. So you're round one.
Yeah, round one I get paired into Sverre from Norway with Retribution, and I decide to drop Silvestro. My Silvestro list is usually my general list, so if I don't have any specific reason to drop something else, I go for Silvestro, and then Locke is for some like corner cases. So you'll have a lot of Silvestro games for this tournament. But it turns out that Kaelissa might be one of the ones where I maybe shouldn't drop Silvestro. I hadn't thought about Kaelissa so much before, but what I really like to do with Silvestro is like have admonition to use my jacks to contest, but still be able to get out when something charges it. And I also like to like shoot things and try to out-threat them. But it turns out with Kaelissa's feat, he basically out-threats me most of the time. A lot of my shooting is ineffective, and Kaelissa also has a gun that can either stationary me or remove the admonition. So a lot of my plans kind of fell apart into Kaelissa. And basically it came down to, I made a positioning error that let him sidestep his Imperatus into my Colossal, and that could have ended the game, but he left it on 1 box. But he also managed to get the Battle Engine the same turn, and actually it was pretty close that it was also left on like 1 or a couple of boxes. But even with the Colossal surviving, I couldn't really grind it out while also keeping relevant on scenario with like Heavies and Sentinels running towards my heavy line and not really having anything that can step in and contest properly. So that was a loss into Kaelissa. Game 1.
You're not lucky with your round 1 pairings, right?
No, my round 1s at tournaments have usually not been super great. I think at Conquest I got at least a pretty good matchup, even if I still got Mark from England, so still a really good player, but the matchup was good. But lately, since the summer, basically, since we run into each other at Lund, I've had really rough games one at conventions and WTC as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's move to your round 2.
Yeah, round 2, I played into Amund, another guy from Norway, with Risk 2, and I dropped Silvestro again. And this game basically came down to, on my feet turn, he had played the Winter Guard command, and on my feet turn, I got so many sprays into his pretty packed infantry that I think I cleared half of the right side of the table completely from infantry, more or less. And I put up my Vulcan and my Battle Engine to do that. But that meant also that he had a Marauder that could charge my Vulcan. But when he was, it was partly planned, at least from my side, because I think it was pretty fine to trade the Vulcan for what I got. Because I also got a Spriggan. By having him so far up, I got Rust on a Spriggan, so one of my Toros could take the Spriggan down. But yeah, when he was going for the Vulcan, he went in with some Winter Guards first, which meant the Marauder couldn't come in without getting countercharged by a Toro. So when he went in with the Marauder, I got a counter charge that took his arm and his cortex out, meaning he only had one attack on the Vulcan. And basically there we called the game and we ended it, because I think even if he killed the Vulcan, he's in a pretty rough spot. But when he can't even try to kill the Vulcan, then things go south pretty fast.
Yeah, sounds like trouble. So we round 3.
Round 3, I see Krix player, which is usually pretty good for Crucible Guard, I would say. And he also drops Ghost Fleet, which is really, really good for Silvestro. Turns out a lot of 10-inch sprays with Explosivo is not what Ghost Fleet wants to see. So yeah, game went south pretty fast for him. It was Matt Townsend, a guy from England I was playing. And I managed to grind out a lot of the infantry, so he ended up playing really aggressive with Terminus to try to force me to do something about it, knowing that it was pretty risky. And yeah, I got some ice cages on him, and I got a transmuted Vulcan charging into his caster.
Oops.
Put him down.
Problem.
So, yeah, that's a problem. So I ended up going 2-1, losing the first game to Sverre, and then winning 2 other games in the 3 rounds of the tournament.
So at this point, Simon, you're qualified for Steamroller Invitational, and you, Johan, need to keep fighting for your spot, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that's about right. And I knew that I cared more about the Masters, and so I was sort of, looking forward to the second day, getting in the Masters qualifier, and trying to go from there, and also join. So I think me and Johan were vying for the top 4 on the second day.
All right. So the first day, also Johan's tournament started. You both played there.
Oh yeah, the Shark Tank.
Yeah, and you both won your rounds 1 and 2.
Nope.
God, no.
That would be very hard since we played each other game 1.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about this game.
So should we do all of that tournament in one go? Because I guess mixing it up with the Masters will be a bit of a mess.
Yeah, we can go 1, 2, 3, 4 if you like.
Yeah.
So the Shark Tank tournament, started off with me versus Johan.
I remember when I said Johan is not really lucky with his round 1.
Yeah, but he organised this one. It could have been avoided.
Yeah.
So
did you bring the same pairing?
Me?
Yep.
I never changed it. The whole weekend, all tournaments, same pairing, same exact thing. Did you change something for this?
Yes, that's why I was asking.
Oh right, okay. So what did you change?
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out exactly what I played. I think I played the same. Yeah, I played the same lock list as before, but I changed Silvestro to be in Magnum Opus instead. So that's the infantry theme. So basically, I keep the Vulcan and I keep the battle engine, but I change out the Tauros and the Vanguard for Halberdiers and Rocketmen, and get some extra solos.
And why?
I think the game against Sverre, I felt like the 2 pure materialists couldn't really handle that really well, and there were a few other games where I felt like the infantry could be better. What I built actually the Prima Materia Silvestre list for is Menoth, or mainly High Reclaimer.
Yep.
So I need the Vanguard Shield Guard to keep the Vulcan alive, to do enough remove from play to get the feat to not kill me too hard, and that I can only do in that theme. But I was basically hoping that I can dodge the High Reclaimers in this tournament.
Okay.
And seeing that I can improve a lot of other games a little bit by dropping High Reclaimer a little bit, I decided to give it a try.
All right.
Fair enough.
So we meet together. What is the scenario?
The scenario is Recon.
All right. And which list did you drop, Johan?
I dropped Silvestro.
Why?
And I dropped Callus 1.
Lock doesn't have enough attacks to shoot through Callus 1, especially not enough accurate attacks to get through all of the things.
I was going to say, go tell that to Convergence.
So that's your standard Legion drop, and Simon, that was your standard Crucible Guard drop, right? Yeah, assuming that every Legion player is playing Callus 1 and every Crucible Guard player is playing Silvestre.
I think that's a reasonable assumption, but what might slightly differ is what their second list is. So I would sometimes prefer not to play Callus 1 But my Callus 2 list relies really quite a lot on fire damage, continuous fire effects, and so on. And a lot of the alchemically treated, fire immune, Crucible Guard stuff really makes a mess. So I don't have a choice. I have to play Callus 1.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, it's not always true.
All right. But... So we're playing Recon 2, and it's Sylvester versus Callus 1. Who won the roll?
I won the roll.
All right.
At least I started, so I assume you didn't choose to go second.
No.
All right, so you're on Vulcan to the middle of the table, right? Tell me about your round 1.
Yeah, it's... I get up... I think I ran my halberds in a bit of a clump, and I initially started putting them close, and then I was like, I think there's something I should think about here. Look at the big blob, his name?
Lightbringer.
Lightbringer, yeah. I was like, oh, he has an AoE, right? Like, oh, I should back off a little bit to at least not let him shoot straight at them and kill them straight off the bat. So I put them just out of his threat range, and then I think I just ran up some rocketmen to be annoying in general, and then
they were behind a forest on your left side. Yeah,
fairly central, but a bit to the left maybe. And then I think I had the Vulcan on my left, and then the battle engine on my right, close to these halberdiers.
On your right, so between objective and a flag?
Yes.
Oops.
I have 2 huge bases. It's hard to avoid to have one of them.
One of them is getting trapped.
They have speed 8 most of the time, so they're usually pretty okay with it. Even if positioning gets a little bit shady sometimes. But I ran up things and put a few things into the Hellmouth range, but just I think some random rocketmen.
Right. He's never hit in a rocketman, right?
We'll see about Simon's turn.
Well, so I saw the clump of halberdiers and immediately got a semi. And basically, in a previous game against Jake Wilstrip, I had got this money shot with a Blightbringer where I caught the attachment as well. And I used I very, very rarely use it, but I used the -2 defense and no tough aura, then blasted a bunch of halberdiers off the table, including the attachment, and it just won the game immediately, just right there. But I'd already got a semi when he put them all clumped up, and then when he sort of unclumped them a bit, I'd already got the idea stuck in my head, and he actually put some of them back into a trench. And I was like, if I just get this, like, I could get 3 directions, and any sort of numbers in terms of distance would be okay, and I'd still get several. So I thought, bugger it, let's do it. So went for it, got the absolute money deviation. Like, I was there screaming and whooping, like, yeah, baby. And then realised that 3 of them were in the trench and that the deviation wasn't quite in the trench, and then I was quite sad. And as a result of that, I didn't have my +2 armour aura up, and then I don't know why, but I just suddenly decided to disrespect any of his threat ranges and charge Callus up to get the extra 3 inches so that my feet next turn would be better. And I was only camping 2, and I
you also cast Dark Guidance, so these rocketmen.
So these rocketmen that you mentioned earlier became quite relevant because I decided I want to ping a couple of them off with tentacles and needed Dark Guidance for this. So got super greedy, Dark Guidance, charged up to get the 12 inches to get them in range, proceeded to miss both of the rocketmen, and then sort of did the best I could with positioning and clock back to Johan.
Right. Love it.
And I go, and let's say me and Simon has played this game a few times. I think I played the other list though. But I feel like I'm not usually in a great position in the game. It's fairly even, I would say, but I would say Simon is maybe slightly up. And especially since I don't have the guided fire on the Vulcan, and I'm a little bit more shaky with the infantry list because I've been playing the other one a lot. And I see Callus, like, middle of the table, camping 2, in range of quite a lot of things.
Yep.
And I was like, with like a really competent player and the list I'm not so comfortable into, I should probably take this.
Yep.
So, yeah, I decided to load up the Vulcan, go for a feat, and then went with the Vulcan and just shot everything I had into Callus. I can't remember the exact rolls, but I think you ended up like transferring twice and taking a few boxes.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Yeah.
So the transfers are gone.
There were some interesting moments during that assassination run, though. Like,
yeah.
Because like there was some interesting. No, I mean like even from a tactical point of view, there was some really interesting like to boost or not boost. And I know that those are sort of maths scenarios that we should be really familiar with by now. But I mean, even with both of us thinking about it, because it sort of became a joint effort by the end of it. Both of us thinking about it.
I had so I had 3 focus and I have science and portents up, and I needed 8s to hit you. Your defense 14.
I'm 14, but no, because I had concealment on.
But I had Alice. I think.
Oh, on Vulcan you did, yeah.
Yeah. So on the Vulcan, when I had the choices, so I could reload to get another big gun, or I can have 3 boosts, either hits or damages. And I think I rolled the first one and I missed, like unboosted, and then I decided to maybe I didn't do any boxes. I just put you out of transfers.
I can't remember because there was the battle engine, and then the rocket men, right?
Yeah, usually against warlocks, it's better. The quantity is better than quality, because if you put your resources into quality, he will transfer the highest value attack and take those little ones.
Yeah, but I think what happened was I figured I needed to. I think I actually reloaded because I needed to get the 3 shots. I think I missed the first one and figured I need to hit 3 shots. So I used the reload, if I remember correctly. But yeah, it was a bit of a hard choice. Like I need to probably force the transfer to make sure he can't just take it and keep the transfer for a spike later, and need to make sure if I hit or not and so on. But yeah, then the rocket men went up, and I think for like the second time in my life, I used their extra speed instead of their extra defense to get as many as possible into range of Callus. And I think I got like 2 guns, 2 bombs, and 2 slug guns.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think you had about 4 or 5 guys in, yeah.
Yeah. I think I screwed one of them somehow. I walked up and got engaged by something, so I think I had like 5 guns onto you in the end. And that actually ended up killing you. I think I needed like 10s to hit with most of them, and I think the UA got a couple of gunshots that needed 9s.
You ended up killing me with a missed one that deviated and blasted me for 1.
Yeah, that's true. So I got you down to 1 box with like 2 hits from them, and then...
Well, the battle engine as well, right?
The battle engine actually never went. That was
Did it not?
No.
Jesus. We did it. We rolled it out at the end just to see whether whether you needed it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So top of 2 assassination to finish our game.
Nice. So you round 2.
Which one of us?
You, Johan. You won the first round. So
yeah. Okay.
Winner's choice.
So it's a rematch into Sverre.
But now you have Sylvestre in Magnum Opus.
Now I have all the infantry instead of the jacks. So it paid off. And it was he played Gorshade 4 instead in this game. It went pretty well overall. He had a Narn. He managed to... I screwed up because I didn't remember Ghost Walk, so I thought Narn behind that obstruction is not a problem. And then suddenly he charged my battle engine. So that went a bit bad early game. But then in the end, I think the rocket men were a bit too much to handle for him. They started swarming the zones and just dropping bombs on his mage hunters. So I managed to grind it out. I had the Vulcan left pretty untouched in the end.
So it was Gorshade 4 in Shadows?
Yes.
All right. Interesting.
Yeah, don't underestimate that list. I'll come back to that later.
I've played against that list, so maybe not against Sverre, but against Gorshade in Shadows.
Okay.
So I managed to get some revenge against Sverre, even if the battle engine going down early was a bit bad, but even with that, the Vulcan could bully the end game together with the rocket.
All right. So, Simon, want to talk about your second game?
Round 2, it was a fairly quick one. I was put up against Gil from Denmark. Also made it out to the event, so that was great that we had a lot of different nationalities and people making the effort to get there. He had, I think it was Vlad. Well, it was Vlad 1 in Winterguard with. Is it Conquest? The big bugger with the range 20 AOE 5 can be flame, rough terrain, flare.
It's Victor.
That one's Victor, is it? I always mix them
Conquest
up.
is crit throw.
Okay, so it was Victor then, yeah. So Victor and 3 units of rocket men, 3 units of infantry with rocket men, and that's about it. Bits and pieces. So I chose Callus 2 because his other list was, I think it was Sorsha 3 Mana Wars. And I'm more comfortable into medium-based infantry with my Callus 2 list. And also I'm fine with it against Winterguard because I know that I can burn them down. And generally the very high threat ranges make gun lines a bit nervous. And the fact that, his big thing with Vlad 1 is that his Colossal threatens 15. But in my Callus 2 list, everything of mine threatens 15 or more. So it's it sort of balances that out and takes that edge away from him. In the end, we were playing on standoff, I believe it was, and he was a bit too cagey, sort of respecting my threat ranges maybe a little bit too much, or maybe not trying to get around them as much as he should have been. And so I was able to then clean out what he put in the zones. It was a bit tricky. He had to do some sort of brand of fire, nuking, and a few sort of risky rolls with some chosen and so on, but got the repositions, got back and scored 4. And once you're up 4-0, it's really hard to lose a game.
Yeah.
In my experience. But then he put the fear into me a little bit because he was like, right, so I think I'm gonna kill everything there and kill everything there, and then I think I can score 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. I was like, holy Jesus! You're not Circle. That just shouldn't be possible. You can't go down 4, lose a bunch of stuff, and then just go, I think I'll just casually kill everything you've got and score 4. Luckily, he wasn't Circle, and he just overestimated it a bit. So he ended up killing not much and scoring 1. So then I clocked back to him after scoring a couple more and just sort of won on scenario. But he did scare me a bit. I thought, have I underestimated this? I thought I was about to take a pounding. So that was round 2. So I was 1-1 at that stage.
All right, cool. So this is the end of the first day, right? Anything interesting happened that day?
Sleep.
Sleep. All right.
I think we went out for some dinner between the end of the Masters and the start of my tournament. We went for some pizza place, got some nice pizzas.
Yeah, it was nice.
All right, cool. So in interest of time, the second day we'll do the checklist of your games so we can have some time to talk about the invitationals.
Sure.
Sounds right? All right.
Yeah.
So day 2, we have a Masters qualification for you and for Simon and Johan.
Should we finish the Steamroller first to not mix 2 tournaments between each other?
Oh, you want to finish the Shark Tank one?
All right.
2 rounds of that, and then, okay, we can do that.
So let's do checklist of that as well, all right?
Sure.
Yeah. So my game 3 in the Invitational was against Frederick, the guy I traveled there with.
Invitational?
High Reclaim. No. This was in the Steamroller.
All right. Shark Tank.
Yeah,
let's say the Shark Tank.
Yeah, Shark Tank. Yeah. So it was the semifinals, and we played quite a lot. I wasn't too convinced about it because I wasn't playing my Prima Materia list, and now it was High Reclaimer. But
the only thing you wanted to dodge, yeah.
Yeah. But it was pretty live scenario, and he misplaced his Judicator a bit, so I could get it down without too much retaliation. So I managed up being able to take that game down.
Awesome.
Cool.
Simon?
I played up against Asbjorn. Because we're discussing this in a different order, it was actually the second time that I'd played Asbjorn, but it's the first time that we'll mention it. And this time he played his second list, not the first one that we played against originally. And he was playing Kruger 2 with 2 Storm Raptors, one of which was on Uno 1, along with Lord of the Feast and some sort of Warp Wolf, I don't know which one, and what else? Not much, really.
Probably Crockpot for
No,
Lord of
there
the
was
Feast.
no Crockpot, actually. He had a naked Lord of the Feast. And what's hilarious
Shifting
is...
Stones.
He might have had shifting stones. I'm not. Yeah, no, I think he did have
there
shifting stones.
There was shifting stones and the black clad.
Black clad. That's it. That's it. It was just all of it was just designed to assassinate you. And I basically just through games and games of experience just respected Lord of the Feast far, far too much and still thought he could kill everything. So I ended up sort of trying in a massive circle around Lord of the Feast and around these two birds and trying to work everything out. And I had Callus 2 in a trench and this, that, and the other. But after that, he was able to just Kruger 2 walks up. He goes first because he has like +2 to starting roll or something. Then he walks up to the middle. Then he just feats me out of the trench. And one of the birds on Una 2 can see through forests and units and everything. Sorry, Una 1. And then just walks up and shoots me to hell. Kruger walks up, shoots me to hell. And then the second bird was ready to come up and shoot me to hell as well. And I died.
Yeah, so that's interesting because Crockpot would fill up the Lord of the Feast and allow the list to have Puppet Master for assassination run, especially for Kruger.
I think he should put that in.
Yeah, but that's really interesting. I was running Baldur 2 Double Storm Raptor, so I've got to try the Kruger 2 version as well.
I've heard about the Baldur 2 one. I'd be interested to see it. The Kruger 2 one, I genuinely had to think about it after the match, and I was like, right, I need to basically build a Hellmouth bunker. And put Callus 2 behind it so that Kruger can't shoot me, and then probably end up putting like an Archangel next to it so that he can't push me, and all this stuff. And it was like, you have to get really technical to survive that. It's a really, really nasty assassination.
Yeah. That's good.
Or we can just get to my game 4 and say, you just get super lucky and it's good.
So, all right, we can do that. I've lost track. Where are we now?
So Johan, you're round 4 is Asbjorn and you, right?
And Kruger Double Storm Raptors. Yeah, it's the finals of the evening tournament. So he plays Kruger 2, and I get a really nice table with a forest, like what you call a crescent moon forest, that I can hide my caster behind, and everything else is pretty open.
So you're playing against Circle, and you're happy about the forest.
Yeah, I mean, Storm Raptors don't see through forests, right?
Yeah, but he has. Yeah, one can. Una 1.
Yes, which I learned after my turn. My turn 2. Or I should know this, but basically I went up and I was like throwing some spells out with Locke. I killed a Sentry Stone just to get some less placement action going on his side. And I place Locke behind the forest, thinking one bird can get to me, but I have 2 shield guards for my Vanguard. And I also have 1 camp, so shouldn't be too dangerous. And then he looks at me and he's like, I'm pretty sure I can kill you. I'm like, oh, doesn't seem so easy. Because I was thinking maybe he forgets I have double shield guard or something like this. And then he starts going with the raptor that I think can't see me. And he's like, yeah, it's on Una. I'm like, oh yeah. So I, through pure skill, I survive on 3 boxes. On Locke, and he has feated on me, so I can't threaten too much still. So basically, he decided to go for the assassination because it wasn't too risky for him, even if he failed. But with Road to War, he gave me like Lord of the Feast and Gorbachev to trigger Road to War. I could get 1 red line Toro into one of his Storm Raptors, the one that can see through the forest. Yeah. So I figured I will. Like, it's probably not too likely. I could get a couple of sprays with the Vulcan on it, and then the Red Line Toro. So I figured it's not too likely, but I probably have to go for it because there's nowhere on the table I can stand and it cannot just shoot me. And I have 3 boxes at the moment. So I went for it, missed, I think, 2 or 3 attacks, leaving it on too many boxes. And I have feated with Locke, so I'm getting some tokens and so on. And I'm camping 3, I think, this turn, or even more. I think I only cast the Red Line. And Alice, yeah, maybe I had 3, yeah. So feet up and do this, and then when I realize I can't kill the Storm Raptor, I run my second Toro to stand in between the Storm Raptor and my caster, because as we were positioned, he can actually just charge me. He doesn't even need to shoot me.
Oh.
And I was figuring that, yeah, with 3 boxes, I probably don't want the Primal Storm Raptor to the face. So with Road to War, on the second Road to War trigger, I managed to get him to actually block the landing spot. So I figured that I'm probably dead because he can just shoot me from where he is, or he can somehow move or kill the Toro, and then he can just charge me. But yeah, then Kruger goes TKs out the Toro that's in melee with the bird, so it's free from that, and then tries to TK the Toro that's between me and the Storm Raptor. But it's in concealment, and when he throws the TK, I get a token on it. So it's up to defense 14, and then he boosts to hits. I'm up to defense 15, and he misses the TK on the Toro.
If he'd got it, were you dead?
Yeah, definitely.
This is why he should have a Puppet Master there.
Yeah,
extra gallows and Puppet Master.
So then he was looking into it a bit and figured that maybe if he can land a Hunter's Mark on the Toro, he can still charge it and get into melee with my casters. Yeah, look. So he goes for that, but misses that one as well. So I'm defense 15 still.
Or 16 at that point because he cast a spell, right?
No, he managed to be outside, I think, of my control, if I remember correctly. So he decides then that, like, I'm on 3 boxes. I can just shoot him to pieces. So the Storm Raptor then goes and tries to shoot me, and shoots the first shot, which I shield guard. Shoots the second shot when I get a token, so I get defense and armor on lock. Shoots that one, I shield guard it. Buys another shot, I get a token. Goes to hit, I get a token. So I'm up to 17-20 with still 3 camp on me. So I don't remember if he actually misses the last shot or if he just doesn't do any damage. So I survived that again on 3 boxes, and through his 2 assassinations and trying to figure out everything, he is down to like 3 minutes against my maybe 45. So at that point we just call it, because basically Kruger is in walk and punch range of the Vulcan, and he doesn't have any time to even try to finish it out.
Road confirmed. You won the event you organized yourself.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. So sorry about some detail on that. I just thought it was a bit interesting, and also wanting to say that, there is some truth to the needing some luck to win.
Yeah, but you won 2 events now, so nice.
That was good.
Yeah, so Simon, your last game of Shark Tank?
Of the Shark Tank tournament, yeah. So I played against Sfera, playing against his Go Shade 4 in Shadows. And I'd actually asked him if we could play Go Shade 4 because I really wanted to get some practice in, and I know he's a very good player. So we'd agreed to play it in a friendly, but we ended up meeting in the tournament, so that was great. So we got the chance. We kind of treated it as a training game. We were both sort of exchanging information and discussing, like, do you think that was the best move? And I think that's a really good way to learn. You know, if anyone's looking at a matchup and just not knowing what to do, find a player that plays that the matchup that you want, and just say, look, can we treat this as a learning experience? And nearly everyone will be up for that. And just, at the end of each turn, just stop and say, right, was that a good idea? Did I just shit the bed? Or,
sometimes I just ask my opponent, what should I kill to be in a good spot? And then, sometimes they help.
Yeah, like, what do you really not want me to do now? And if they're willing to answer you, then you can learn a lot. So we did that, and it was really, really informative, because I've never played against Shadows at all. We've got no retribution here, really. It's like a total unknown for me. And so I learned exactly which models to respect, which ones not, about his all of his spears and the recursion and sort of how that all functioned. In the end, he won on scenario, I think it was, because he'd put himself in such a good position again and again that I wasn't able to bring it back. I was playing Callus 1 into Go Shade 4. It was a very interesting matchup for me because I previously thought it was excellent for Legion, and then I watched Emily get destroyed at Conquest by a very solid Retribution player, which I really wasn't expecting, because she'd just beaten me, and I know she's really good, and then suddenly she loses to Go Shade 4 really heavily, and I was then really nervous about it. So now I still think it's fine. I think you'd still drop Callus 1. I think it's still very playable, but you need to respect him, and so that was my last game. So I actually ended up 1 for 3 on that particular tournament. Not my finest hour.
All right. So day 2, you've played both in the same tournament.
Yeah.
And any game you want to talk about there, Simon?
Oh, me? Yeah. All right. We both threw it out at the same time. So me. So let me just quickly find out. I've got my notes here. Masters, second day. I played 3 circles in a row. I played Asbjorn, but this time he was playing his Iona. That was probably my most interesting game of the whole tournament, but maybe not for something to chat about necessarily, but just from my point of view, it was Callus 2 against Iona, so it was me really getting to play test my anti-Tharn list into Iona Tharn, which is obviously the sort of quintessential Tharn list, against a really solid player from Norway. So it was perfect, and the game really swung a couple of times, so I think that really makes games pretty interesting. So first of all, he spent really quite a lot too much time because he didn't know my list, and that's an advantage I have a lot, which is that I know the Tharn lists well, and most people don't know my Callus 2 list. So he was really having to spend a lot of time respecting all my threats and so on, and trying to learn my list sort of on the fly. So I had a big clock advantage. Then I threw it all away by spending about 15 minutes working out an assassination. And then, as always, forget the bloody white mane. And halfway through the assassination, got white maned to the face. So it was stupid because I didn't even forget the white mane. I'd remembered the white mane, and I was like, yeah, so I need to do something about that, and I'll get to that in a minute. And then he actually white maned me slightly earlier than I thought, while I was just clearing out another model that was in the way of something else. And then white mane just came over and stood in the way where I really needed my Neref to go. But he accidentally saved my ass with that, because I think it would have been a mistake to really go through with it after things started to go wrong. And as soon as he said countercharge, I was like, right, just let's go back to the attrition and clock plan, because it was definitely fine. So I ended up switching immediately to attrition, just charged everything that was in range, burned everything that I could, and set myself up to play the game through. And then I ended up during his turn calling a judge and just saying, look, this is about to get messy, because he's only got 5 models that aren't on fire, and we've got about 4 minutes left each. And it's we're gonna have to have someone watch. So we had a judge watch the whole game because of the turn timing and fury management and all that sort of stuff. And in the end, I won on clock because he just couldn't deal with all the fire.
Interesting.
Yeah. So that was easily my favorite game of the tournament. Really enjoyed it. Really close. My hands were shaking at the end. Proper adrenaline. Loved it.
Yeah, happy Asbjorn joined the Church of White Mane.
Yes.
I was telling everyone that everyone needs one in their list.
God, I hate him.
Right, cool. So, Johan, your first game, anything interesting there?
I think I'll just run through fairly quickly.
Right.
So I played against Lily 3 game 1 with Silvestro. He wasn't very used to Crucible Guard. I think my output surprised him a bit. So I managed to kill a lot on my feet turn, and then he tried to get an angle for assassination, which didn't work out. So I won that game. Then I played into Dreamer, had a really good attrition plan. I talked a bit to Pat beforehand, so I thought I had this down. And then I look at the table and I see he left an assassination very open, and I was like, this is probably too good not to take. But then along the way, I did some fuck-ups, and I also seemed to have misjudged some line of sight and so on. So in the end, it ended up a very shaky assassination, but luckily I pulled it through anyway. So it went from probably a 90-95% to maybe a 50-50 in the end, with all the things that went wrong, and that, yeah. But I managed to win it anyway. So it was closer than I would have liked. It worked out. And then I played Sverre once again. So third time against him, and this time I had. Actually, my pairing was Silvestro with Prima Materia from before, and then I played Gerhardt in Magnum Opus, and it's a list Pat has been playing, so I think you can find that around if you look for it. But it's the shoot infantry list, basically. And he played his Kalissa list again, and basically I managed to back out on scenario pretty okay, to not take the alpha during his feat, while not giving up scenario too much, and then from that point I could just grind him down with the things I had left. So it was a pretty long game, but I won on the attrition in the long run.
Cool.
Nice.
Simon,
My second game I can do quickly. It was against a lovely guy called Will from the UK. He was playing Morvana 1. I was playing Callus 2 again. But during the discussion of before the game, I was asking about immunities and what does this do, what does that do, and he totally forgot that Brenos can remove continuous fire. And then halfway through my Archangel's activation, when I was setting everything on fire, he was like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "I'm so sorry. This guy can remove continuous fire." Offered to concede the game because it was quite massive. So we just paused it, had to think about it, and then he came up with a better solution, which he was like, "Look, I realise it sucks, but here's the best solution, which is that for the duration of this game, he can't use that ability."
Yeah.
So I was like, right, okay. I don't like accepting handicaps, but at that point, it was the only thing we could really do. And I really don't like just, having a game conceded. That just sucks. So we played it through, but he ended up getting pretty badly beaten up. Everything burning, and he couldn't get rid of it, and that was the end of that. Third game, I ended up playing into Circle again. I played into 6 circles over the weekend, and 5 of them had forests in the middle. This one was Robin, so Johan's countryman and neighbour almost, and he was playing his Baldur 1 list. I again played Callus 2, and the problem is that Robin's list is actually one of the much better Tharn lists into mine, because I'm good at dealing, or that list is good at dealing with the medium-based, and he's got more of the small-based and the sort of range shooty stuff, and the Storm Raptor and this sort of thing. So his just list happened to work out a bit better. In the end, after playing so many games against Circle and not getting killed by Lord of the Feast, I got killed by Lord of the Feast. So he held him back over the first few turns, and then he just caught me with the old objective thing. So he was 18 inches away from an objective, behind a forest, in some shifting stones, went forward, hit the objective, and then had Divine Inspiration, Grievous Wounds, and far too many rules that he just shouldn't have, and killed the hell out of Callus 2, which was a bit of a disappointing end to the Masters run. But I was a bit tired at that point, so it wasn't a huge disappointment that I was able to go and have a break and eat some food. But, Lord of the Feast is just never a very pleasant play experience for anyone. It is ridiculous, and I don't know what they're doing. So that's that one.
It's pleasant experience for Circle players. So
is it though? Is it? I don't know. I don't know if that's fun, because it's like, did you do anything? I don't know. You just went forward, Lord of the Feast, and won. Anyway, it's it's difficult. I get a bit salty about Lord of the Feast, because he just creates a really negative play experience in every situation that I've seen him in, and it's like there's no real counterplay. He's always effective. There's no downside to having him in a list. Like, it just, I try not to get too angry about it, but it's one of those. It does trigger me a bit, so I have to try and back off. Sorry about that.
Cool. Let's talk about the third day and the Invitational. So,
sure.
Round 1, and we'll start with you, Johan.
Actually, I tell you what it might be easy to do, because I'm going to be real quick with this. So
right.
I'm just going to rattle through mine, and then Johan can give us the interesting stuff, because he played
all right, let's do it.
In the Masters Invitational. So I was in a Steamroller Invitational. My first game was against Kaya 3. I played Callus 2. He was a slightly less experienced player, and I just tabled him. He respected my ranges too much, stayed out, then came in too much, and then died. Second game against Axis with Lukant, a friend of mine from Austria. He was really hoping not to play against me, played against me, and had played against Callus 1 on Mirage, and that's very, very brutal. Callus 1 runs forward, takes all the scenario, feats, takes the scenario again, wins. But he did actually kill all 10 Chosen with the Teps. So while he didn't get the scenario back, he did take his revenge on the Chosen. Last game, most interesting, was again, I had a rematch against Delano, so he was the Minions player. He chose again to play Maylock. This time I played Callus 2, because I'd sort of worked out overnight that actually I should have played Callus 2 in the first place, and I was absolutely right. I managed to mind game him into going second, so he was like, I'll go first. I was like, really? I'll take that side with the trench. And he was like, wait, hang on a sec, hang on. And then he ended up going second and taking the side with the trench, and I just wanted to go first. So I went first, ran everything up 14 inches, and I've got a photo of the board state, and it was just really sad. He couldn't move. He had a bunch of Croak Raiders, everything that mine's fire immune. And he gave it, again, a really valiant effort. Like, given that it's Maylock, given how disadvantaged he was, he really ground the game out. I think he killed my Archangel with the Wrestler eventually, but the game went too long, and he just took way too many continuous fire rolls, and they were all boosted from the Croaks. So we went down to the last few minutes, and I won on scenario. So I ended up winning the Steamroller. Great opponent. If you get the chance to play him, especially if anyone's looking to improve at minions, have a chat with him. He knows his stuff, and he's a thinking player. So, speak to him. Try and come up with something. Make minions great again. Do it. So that's me. I'm all done. That was all my games.
Congrats, Simon.
Thank you.
So, Johan.
Yes. So I went into the Invitational, and game 1, I get paired against my neighbor, who Simon was just talking about, so Robin. And anybody who has ever heard me talk about Crucible Guard...
Which list did you take, by the way?
Oh, yeah. To the Invitational, I took the same list as in Masters A, so Silvestro Prima Materia and Loki Prima Materia. So both Jack-heavy lists.
So Sfera didn't qualify? Sfera didn't qualify?
No.
Oh, all right. Makes sense.
No, but... So yeah. We can take some reasoning to that. I was considering the lists in the evening to see what would happen and if I should change something. But my original plan going in to the reason I took the list I took to the first one was because I feel like I need the Silvestro Prima Materia into High Reclaimer, and I feel like I need the other one to at least pretend to have a game into Circle or Wormwood. It's my new. You always need to come up with a new thing to try against Wormwood, because if the Wormwood player learns it, you're fucked. But if you can play something that they don't really know what's going on, then maybe it can work. Maybe you have some experience, Tomasz. So yeah, and looking at the field for Invitational, there was 2 High Reclaimers, or 2 Menoth, High Reclaimer. And there were, I think, at least 2 Circle. And then there was at least 1 more Crucible Guard. And I was thinking about that, and I figured that actually my Silvestro list with the Guided Fire Vulcan it's probably a bit advantaged into the other list, because it relies a lot on the high defense skew. And when you have Rat 7 boosted sprays on everything, then playing for high defense isn't. You
mean Prima Materia Silvestro beats Magnum Opus Silvestra?
I think so, yes. Right. It's not easy game, but I think it's a bit better into it. So I figured it was still better into the mirror, and also there are 2 High Reclaimer players, and then I still want the lock because I know there's some Wormwoods lurking around. And what else was in there? There was a Scorn, which I was hoping to dodge at that point because I don't think I had a great list into it. And then there was also Haley 3.
But you have a great mind into it because you used to be a Scorn player.
Yeah. I used to be a Scorn player, so that probably helps. But yeah, so the Scorn was probably my roughest matchup for the lists I built. But I felt like I was pretty good into the rest of the field with what I brought. And still, Wormwood is probably the worst matchup I can get. So of course, game 1, true to my track record, I get paired into Robin, who brought Wormwood in Bones.
Your usual round 1 luck.
Yeah. So, I mean, it sucks a bit that I'm playing against a guy I'm traveling there with, but on the other hand, we're just 8 players in the Invitational, so it's not so weird that we actually could get paired up. And again, I'm playing on exactly the same table that I played against Asbjørn. So, a very open middle table, and the forest, covering the objective, the center of the table into my deployment zone, more or less. And also the scenario was invasion, so it was the slowest scenario on a board where I could hide my caster, but he didn't have any terrain to build his forest wall out of. So I think pretty much perfect conditions to actually be able to play into Wormwood for my.
Yeah. So just a question: did you ask Robin why he didn't took his other list? Because seeing a lock and playing against you many times, he probably knew that you are not going to drop Silvestra into Wormwood. Seeing the table, he could just pick Baldur 1, probably?
Yeah, maybe he should have done that. I think he was pretty convinced Wormwood was good into Crucible Guard, and maybe he should have rethought it when he saw the table and the
so
scenario.
Just autopilot.
But I think he was autopiloting maybe a bit into Wormwood. And also a problem for him is he hasn't been playing Wormwood a lot lately. He's been playing a lot of other things, but not Wormwood so much. So like I'm going up into a player who isn't so used to Wormwood on perfect scenario and perfect table. So it's actually starting to look like it might be a game from the Crucible Guard side. And yeah, I can go into a bit of detail in this game since it's the Invitationals. So if I remember correctly, he got turn 1. Actually, I have this written down somewhere. Yeah, he got turn 1. So he goes up a bit, but stays out of my threat ranges because he doesn't want to get things shot unnecessarily. I think I have a great plan of putting red line on one of my Tauros and then putting up a cloud wall in front of it to avoid the Weird shooting it to pieces. So I basically put both my Tauros behind the cloud wall, basing the Vulcan, and having the Vulcan, then he can shoot the Vulcan as much as he wants because, yeah, that doesn't matter too much. And also, if he strangleholds it from any of the Volds, it can actually walk forward and then jackhammer them. With the lock, sorry to interrupt you, I think you can run Vulcan in the between all the war beasts, do the no healing aura, and just jackhammer spirit, because you can choose columns, right? Yes, it's pretty likely. But
you can just snipe out all the spirits, and that's it.
I can't do the turn 1, and from then on, it's going to be Stranglehold on him. So
all right.
He's not going to be too happy about that.
Fair.
But yeah, he manages, then my perfect plan of hiding behind the clouds turns to be not as great when he just Hellmouth the alchemist that made the cloud and put both my Tauros into it. So the Toro with red line goes down to the Weirds, but luckily for me, he fails to crack armor on the other one with Stranglehold from one of his Wold Wardens. So my Vulcan is Strangleheld from Cassius and Wormwood, but I can manage to get the Toro to charge the thing that tried to stranglehold him. So I get take down a Warden, and I use a bit of jackhammers to do this. I don't want to put the upkeep on him because the Weirds are still in play, so I don't want to give them too much output. And I also managed to the Weird that went up, one of the Weirds that went up to shoot at the red line Vulcan is in the front of the Vulcan, and the Vulcan can actually see it with both sides. So I just unload the Vulcan into the Weird, killing it.
So it was the free World Weirds, a Megalith, Warden, Guardian version?
2 Wardens.
2 Wardens.
No Guardian.
All right.
Yeah. So I managed to do that while keeping out of most of his threat ranges, so he can still like do some shooting and whatever, but he can't melee my big things. And I also feed this turn to protect a bit. If I remember correctly, if he put the Hunter's Mark down, he could get to the Vulcan with the Megalith. But,
I've tried that.
Yeah. But yeah, he goes in and kills the objective, tries to get up a bit on scenario. I think he manages to score 2 or 3 points. But from that point, I can get a really good turn into him, taking down Megalith with jackhammers, and then I also managed the Vulcan to get Rust over on his other Warden, which had slammed my Suppressor out of the zone. So with Rust, the Suppressor takes down the other Warden, and I maybe kill a Weird as well. So at that point, he basically has like 2 Weirds, or 1 Weird even, left on the table, and some Sentry Stones and support. And I have lost 1 Toro at that point.
So he tried assassination?
Yeah, so he tried for an assassination, but I think the odds were not great. I had Road to War up on lock, and he managed to get the Weird to shoot her. Can't remember if I had some shield guards, but I was camping a bit anyway, so it was something like a 10-20% assassination that he tried for. But it failed, so I managed to actually beat Wormwood, I think, for the first time with Crucible Guard. So
this was your weekend, like everything was perfect.
Yes. And then game 2, I'm paired into Pat, meaning we are having a Silvestro mirror. So Silvestro Magnum Opus into Silvestro Prima Materia. And actually so I think he went first, then I went up and killed maybe a couple of rocket men with the Vulcan. Then his Vulcan went out to a far flank to try to avoid my Tauros getting to him. while still shooting a bit. And then he went in with this Rocketman to try to do some shooting, or I think clear my cloud wall that I put up. And while doing so, he triggered a counter charge on the Toro. So suddenly the Toro is within 12 of his Vulcan again. And at that point, he just tries to go into the Toro to try to damage it or kill it, so it can't get to the Vulcan. But with admonition still up on it, I managed to walk in and engage a Rocketman, meaning that basically everything else is to shoot into melee to get to me. And I was out of his melee threats. So he takes out maybe half the Vulcan or half the Toro, but with my feet. So he also blocks the line to the Vulcan with a lot of Rocketmen. But with feet and guided fire and 2 10-inch sprays, the Vulcan just cleared all the Rocketmen needed, and also while doing so, I healed up the Toro quite a lot from the feet. So it was in pretty good condition. And then the Vulcan also put 2 rust rockets into his Vulcan, meaning he had taken some damage and also got rust on him. And I got transmute on the Toro and got the speed from the speed thing.
Rocket fuel?
Super fuel, yeah. So I charge in, and I think I leave the Vulcan on 2 boxes, but the battle engine goes in and finishes it. And it's also, we were playing on Mirage, which was, I think, a problem for me, because he has a lot more models than me, and Mirage is one of the scenarios where that counts the most, I feel like. So I have a hard time contesting in so many places at once without losing much, while he can just throw a random Rocketman or Halberdier to every place. But yeah, getting the Vulcan then swung the game pretty heavily in my favor. And after that, we were just grinding. He tried to take my Vulcan down. I placed my Vanguard to make sure he couldn't rust my Vulcan with his Corpsman. But he just threw it and scattered onto it instead. So got a bit lucky, got the rust on me anyway, and got, I think, 5 Halberdiers onto me, which left the Vulcan on, I don't know exactly, but 10-15 boxes maybe. And then he had a few random shots into it where I could shield guard a couple of them. And he left me at something like 7 or 8 boxes in the end.
All right.
So that's the Vulcan having another turn of guided fire sprays. Just
no systems out, or you repaired it?
He was close to my own objective, and also I had 2 mechanics.
Awesome.
So he just got everything he needed back, and then guided fire and just spray down a lot of infantry again, clearing out as much as I could. And then in the end, he managed to get down my Vulcan, but at that point I was pretty heavily up on attrition, even without the Vulcan. And he tried to play a bit for scenario, but I managed to keep my battle engine in his zone for long enough that he couldn't get too far ahead of me. And then in the end he tried for an assassination where he had to slam a model into my caster to knock me down, and then try to spell assassinate me with his Suestro through my camp of 3 or so.
Slam with the transfer.
He needed to roll the 4+ to slam Prospero into my
Silvestre.
Caster. Yeah. But it was a pretty long shot assassination, which didn't work out. And at that point, he had 2 models left and nothing to contest with. So I managed to win.
Cool.
So winning the mirror against Pat, pretty good.
I was about to say that's got to be a hell of a feeling. I mean,
round 1 you killed Wormwood. Round 2 you killed Patrick with in a mirror. That sounds like you were on fire.
Yeah, things worked out.
It really was that weekend, actually. I remember chatting with you, and every game you were just like, "Yep, no, I knew what I needed to do. I did it. It worked. The dice went my way as well. Everything was just lining up for you, which is great. I love it when you get into that kind of zone."
It's probably why we are recording the episode a week later. All the drugs came down.
Yeah.
You needed to recover.
It's not that far off. Oh God. Anyway, that was against Pat.
Finals.
And then the finals against Tomasz, which is not the one on this podcast, but is from Prague. So he was on the same team as Simon on WTC.
He was the captain of the Czech A team. Yeah.
And he played High Reclaimer. So once again, I felt like my teching worked out pretty good because now I actually had the list I wanted to play into High Reclaimer.
I'm always so jealous of all this, teching that people do. I've got like 2 lists that can work, and I generally play one of them. And everyone's like, "Oh, I think I'm gonna change some stuff around." And I look at mine and go, "Nope." And that's what we got.
You got some Croak Raiders into your Callus 2 recently.
Yeah, but I've just taken them out. I've taken them out to put Golab back in because my God, he's good.
Yeah, if that makes you feel better, I also tried not to tech into anyone, just take my favorite lists. And
well, it's not so much that it's not that I'm like morally against teching. Hell, I'd tech all day long. But I look at it and I go, okay, so I know what people are taking, and guess what? It's Circle, and I've got Callus 2, and I think this is the best chance I've got. So why would I change it? Like it's what a big surprise! There's a bunch of Circle, Scorn, and High Reclaimer, and that's what my pairing is designed for.
Crucible Guard.
Yeah, I mean, Crucible Guard, you just kind of play Callus 1 and try to skill it. It's very playable. It's fine. It's okay.
All right. So going back to the finals, it's High Reclaimer versus Sylvestra.
Yes. And the scenario is standoff, and this time, like, the tables went my way a lot. So against Wormwood, the table was like 1 cloud in the middle and the forest for me to keep safe. And against High Reclaimer, there is terrain everywhere. So he's playing the variant with double Incinerators, 1 max and 1 min, both with UA, and then the Vengers and the Judicator, and the Sevi-Zero with the Dervish, and then like Wiscot Roven, and then some support guys. Having a big forest, having a decent sized forest in the middle, some random water, some random rubble spread around, making sure he can't really get around as he wants to. It kind of helps me out. And against the Judicator, everything I want is as much terrain as there possibly can be. Like a forest, great, I can head a Tor behind it. A trench, great, the Judicator has a harder time hitting me. Just everything that's on there just makes everything better for me. I think we counted to 11 pieces of terrain on that table at the end.
Yeah, some of them were pretty small, but they were big on having tons of pieces of tiny terrain.
Yeah, they were really small pieces, so I actually like it in general, but I think on this table there were 2 pretty big pieces together with like 9 small ones, which made it a bit much.
Yeah, especially as a Menoth player, you're just looking down going, really? Really?
Yeah.
So anyway, we start playing the game. He goes first. And I just, on my second turn, I stay out of his threat ranges, except the big guns from the Judicator, because that's going to happen. So I don't give him any sprays or any charges. I think I managed to RFP 1 Venger already turn 1 with Explosivo on the Rayless with the help of Dragon Breath Rocket. And then I put some damage into his Dervish, because that's basically what I can shoot at without getting too close to things. And after that, he goes in a bit, he takes some shots, shoots down the Trancer, I think, and puts some damage into a Toro, if I remember correctly. And carefully puts his Judicator out of 13 from my Vulcan and 12 from both my Toros. And then there's a slight flashback from the semifinals, where he goes in with a Venger to contest my zone and triggers a countercharge from one of my Toros. So suddenly the Toro is within 12 inches of his Judicator. And also one of the few things left to activate is the Dervish, but due to the forest my Toro is in, he can't really get there. He can just try to be in the way, but he can't get in my Toro. So it's an untouched Toro now threatening his Judicator. So he manages to get Desperate Pace and Minifeet to get some Incinerators. Like I think 1 actually blocking my line, and 1 or 2 are able to do free strikes.
I'm always so happy when I hear about other people getting countercharged. Because I feel like such a moron every time it happens. I'm just like, oh God, I'm terrible. I'm the worst player in the world. And then I hear about it happening in your games, and the level of the field of play in general was high. And then like like Pat was talking about, oh yeah, I got countercharged. I was like, you even play the Toro? Like, I've got an excuse. I don't have any countercharge, or I do. It's on a rake. Like, yeah. But so I felt a lot better. That's all I'm saying. I'm delighted to hear about more people being countercharged. That's good.
And anyway, and then he got some shield guards and so on next to his Judicator to try to keep it going, or at least lower my chances of killing it. So on my turn, I managed to get. I think I go. First of all, I feat. Transmute is already on the Toro, so that's everything is good. And then I get super fuel up to get the Vulcan and the Toro charging, and also my battle engine. And then one of my transers goes into the incinerators, and because of like terrain and placement and so on, his Gravis is a bit far back from the incinerators, so they can actually be knocked down. So I slam one incinerator into another one, killing the one I hit and knocking down the other one, making sure there are no more free strikes. And then my battle engine goes up, and no, actually my Vulcan goes first. So my Vulcan goes up, puts one spray into the Dervish and one of the shield guards. So making sure he has only one shield guard for the big guy. So does some good damage with that. Then shoots the rust rocket, and actually the shield guard left is close enough that it still clips the Judicator. So he takes it off, but I still get rust for the second spray. So second spray goes into both Dervish and Judicator. And then I reload and shoot another rocket into the Judicator. So I killed the Dervish actually on the 2 sprays with some damage from before. I got to within 5 of it with the Vulcan, so it got rust on it as well. And the feet up, so straight dice damage with signs and portents on it. And then the battle engine goes, clears out the last incinerator in the charge lane, and also gets a big gun into the rusted Judicator. So taking it down pretty heavily before my Toro goes in. And then, Toro goes, charges in, and I get him, charge works out well. I buy an attack, and I roll the triple ones for the hit. So, meaning one of the, signs +3, is it? +3 attack? Doesn't do any damage at all. And then I do my last attack, and he survives on, 6 boxes or so. I put my entire turn to get this lane into the Judicator and just get everything into him. And dice don't want to be on my side at that point.
And does he have a mechanic?
I think he's close enough to the objective.
All right.
If I remember correctly. At that point, I have my Toro in melee with the Judicator. I have my Vulcan in charge range of the Judicator. And just doesn't look too great. So at that point, I figured this isn't going well. So I'll just try to be a bit in the way and see what will happen. So I put my Alchemists in between the Vulcan and the Judicator, laughing a bit to myself with their fire immunity. At Menoth trying to clear things is always fun. So on his turn, he goes with Viscot and Roven, trying to blast them with a spell, and I'm like, I'm fire immune. But I give him the take back because I wasn't sure if he knew it, and it was a bit questionable. So I just leave it, and then he takes his Sevi-Zero, goes up and buys a nuke into it and boosts to hit, and I'm like, yeah, it does nothing. And I'm sorry, but no, this time it stands. Now you know they have fire immunity. So now you just need to know your own spells are fire.
Yeah, the previous one was not knowing my stuff. This is not knowing your stuff.
Yeah. So then he goes and he's like, oh, but they're only 1 box. And looking at High Reclaimer, and I'm like, yeah, you might just want to check the card. Because Ashes to Ashes is also fire damage.
Right. It even sounds like damage from fire, right?
Yeah,
it does. But then, an Archangel is almost entirely made of fire. It spits fire, and that's not fire immune. So, what seems
But anyway.
what seems to be what should be, doesn't always apply.
So yeah, in the end, he then goes with he charges in High Reclaimer into my Toro that went into Adjudicator, smacking him quite a bit, then feeding to get back one of the Shield Guard guys and some other things. And one of the Shield Guard guys can go in and kill one of the alchemists, and then his Incinerator unit can kill the other one and also kill the Shield Guard guy who is now in the way, and then use their mini feat to reposition out of the way for him. And at this point, just let's say Jake Wilstrop is sitting next to me and basically losing his mind at what's going on. Because, so first of all, when he charges in the Incinerator, I consider that I can countercharge my Toro to maybe kill Incinerator and also be in the way to make sure he doesn't get to the Vulcan. But what I think at that point is that I'm not sure if I'm better off losing 2 Toros, because if he went for the Vulcan, he couldn't get line of sight to the Toro because he had to charge to get to the Vulcan. So the Toro in his zone wouldn't be smacked by it. And if I put the Toro up there, he will just smack both Toros. So I'm like, I'll probably not countercharge that. I'll see how it goes. I can probably countercharge the Adjudicator when it goes in. And then he, in the reposition move of the Incinerators, he manages to engage my Toro with the Incinerator. And I'm just, shit, that sucks a bit, so I can't do my plan. And then Adjudicator goes in and kills my Vulcan. But my Toro is still alive on, I think, 3 boxes, with Cortex right arm up, having Transmute on him, standing in melee with High Reclaimer at the end of his turn. But he's on fire, so of course he dies to the fire. So once again, dice are not on my side, because just taking 1 damage instead of the 3 needed would have been pretty good, because High Reclaimer would probably be dead. But Toro goes down, and let's just say I didn't realize this at the time, but I actually had admonition on the Toro we were talking about before with the counter charges. So at like 3 different points, I could have just screwed his entire plan and still had my Toro. Because I could countercharge the Incinerator, be in the way, and when he went in with the Adjudicator, just admonition out. So the other Toro was like ready to countercharge whatever went into the Vulcan.
Makes sense.
But yeah, so I could have like also just when the Adjudicator actually charged in, I could have admonition and then countercharged him. And with Rust up and 8 boxes on the Adjudicator, is pretty likely to die and at least very, very likely to lose some critical systems. So I could probably have saved my Vulcan if I just figured out how to play with my own models. But that was hard, apparently. But yeah, he killed the Vulcan, and as I said, the Toro died from fire, but the Toro actually survived during his turn, and it was in his zone on standoff, meaning that he didn't score anything at all his turn, while I scored 1, I think, on my feat turn. And then after this, I killed the Adjudicator and started just grinding the game in general, and I started scoring a bit more than him, and he actually got pretty tight on time in the end, and we got to turn 7, and at that point I had 6-2 on scenario, I think. So, yeah.
He couldn't pull it back and you went on scenario?
No. That's turn 7 scenario win
at
the end.
Yeah.
Even after both fucking up and rolling badly, I managed to pull it out. And I thank the terrain quite a lot for that, because I think the game would have been much more even if his things could get where they needed to, instead of being stuck getting around some pond of water or random rubble.
Well, congrats, man. I mean, we've played against him a couple of times, because obviously your girlfriend's in Prague, and so I travel to Prague quite a lot and play against him as well. And he's a very, very solid player, and so not at all an easy finals. And High Reclaimer's High Reclaimer, so it's really impressive.
Yeah, congrats.
Felt really good. I feel like I've been not really pulling things off lately. I've been stuck in the X and 1 for a while, but this weekend I got to get some proper results in, so it felt really good.
Awesome. Did you win some Signar?
No. I think we just won in general. We won some trophy and some medal, but then like the whole event has been kind of a thing they have been doing is that basically for every hour you play or something like this, you get some token that you can use to buy stuff from the store, meaning that also like casual players get some rewards for their playing. So
and everyone had bought everything by the time I got there. So I turned up with the full. I'd been playing from dusk till dawn. I was playing till 1 a.m. most days. Arrived at the end, I was like, "Hey guys, I've got full points. What can I get?" They were like, "We've run out of everything." They were like, "You can have a poster." I was like, "I'm all right, thanks." Never mind. I just wanted to get some terrain for the local because, like, I thought good to get some terrain and try and just get stuff that's different to the stuff that we play on. Just because I thought one of the interesting things for me about that tournament was that they had really different terrain. Like, just in general, not just the setups, but the actual pieces as well. Just different sizes, different shapes. And it made me realise that I'd been playing on the same 2D terrain pieces for too long. And I need to get some more. So, another reason to travel. Travel, people. Go and play in other places. New metas, new terrain. Lots of things surprise you. Suddenly, you'll just see a K-door and be like, what are you doing? It is great. Yeah, exactly. Or minions. Like, where the hell did minions come from? So that was good. We are going way over time. So I was going to I had a couple of little things about, meta and faction popularity and this, that, and the other. But lots of circle and scorn. That seems to be the way it is. In the US, they've got an absolute butt ton of scorn, and we've got circle everywhere.
I honestly think, like, how many scorn players did you see?
2. We had very, very few.
Yeah. So that's what I was going to say, that this was the same time as the Las Vegas Open.
Yeah.
Where it was a big upset that basically Scorn and Circle took 10 out of 16 spots, and Scorn played the mirror in the finals.
Yeah.
While at the same weekend in London, like, one Scorn made the Invitational, and they lost turn 1, I think.
Yeah.
So we didn't really have the same experience over here.
No, we didn't.
Circle is probably the same. I don't see as much Menoth over in the US, at least talking about it. I still think High Reclaimer is like the absolute top of the meta.
Yeah, he's absolutely insane. Yeah, just slightly less than Feast.
Yeah.
It's
I'm not sure. Like Sevi-Zero or Lord of the Feast.
They're both ridiculous.
It's probably a tough call.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's Circle and Scorn and Crucible Guard and Menoth. But, those are the top 4, with Circle and Scorn being very prevalent. But that's okay. But I had one question which came up today because while playing a very hungover tournament, I ended up one-listing Callus 2, making it to the finals. And the other player one-listed Iona and won the finals. And we were thinking about that DNC was just sort of fairly quietly removed a while back. And at the time, it was fairly well received, I would say. People sort of saying, oh, great, less restrictions on what I can do. I can choose what I want to play. I don't have to worry about always having to play my second list and blah, blah, blah. But then I thought, it's a bit sad that most people are just one-listing something nuts, and they don't have to think about their second list that much, and they don't have to think about, is this the game to drop it? It took something out of the game. It didn't just add to the game. Do you know what I mean? And I haven't really formed my opinion properly on this, but I wondered what your views were, because I asked him, and he was like, oh yeah, I didn't really think about that. He said, to be honest, it's probably bad for the game. What do you think?
I think my straight opinion is Divide and Conquer is shit in every possible way, and it's a shit solution to a problem that might not even exist.
What do you mean by that last part? So, I mean, I absolutely respect the view. I haven't really decided myself.
So I can explain what my view is. So what I think ends up happening with Divide and Conquer is you get randomly screwed by getting the same matchup over and over. So like you're playing into Circle all weekend, and you get screwed out of your Circle answer because
you have to play Callus 1 more time.
Yeah. And also, like, it doesn't actually benefit the guy you're playing against, because let's say you're playing a 4-round tournament and you fuck everybody turn round 1, 2, and 3, and then you fucked your strength of schedule for being locked out of your list turn 4. So it's like the guys who get screwed by you playing the same list over and over actually get more screwed by you not playing the list you should play in the last game.
Right. But
so I just think it like randomly rewards. So then somebody wins the finals, so maybe shouldn't have won the finals because you got the matchups that were better for one of the lists during the day.
You got list locked. So your issue with it is the randomness, and the fact that there are just situations and circumstances whereby divide and conquer can screw you, and there's little you can do about it.
Yeah, and my biggest thing is that it punishes the wrong person at the wrong time.
Doesn't it also punish people who can only play one list? Like doesn't it kind of try to solve the solution? I mean, I'm playing devil's advocate, but when there is like high reclaimer,
it tries to solve the thing, but I just think like the way it does it it's
doesn't work.
Not good.
All right. And Tomasz, what do you reckon?
I think I agree with Johan.
Yeah?
I enjoy having freedom with my choices.
And even if that freedom is to just one list Iona every tournament. Like, I mean, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I used to one list Animag for months. I'm just interested if you think it's good for the game.
Yeah, I mean, I bring two lists with me. I think about my pairing. I don't think about a single list. So they work together. If someone wants to one list a list, but build a pair to scare some matchups off, like that's part of your tactics. If you want to build your pairing to be like even, to drop one and another, it's also part of the tactics. So I think it's like the freedom is good for the game. And also, I would say I had my first Masters I've played. I got into the finals, and my opponent had two lists, which one of them would make a lot of troubles for me. And then someone randomly said that, oh, don't worry, your opponent played one list up until the finals, so you don't need to worry about this list. And I won that game. And my opponent said, like, yeah, if I took my second list, you would lose like 100%. So,
right, but he was list locked out of it.
Yeah, even though I won the tournament, I felt a bit bad. Like he didn't get to play what he wanted to, and the second list, like honestly, he didn't have a chance.
Right.
Like I could do anything, just protect my caster, and that was my whole plan for the game. So to
be honest, I'm really glad I asked this question then, because we had a really different discussion today with just, I think, different players, different, approaches to the problem or to the question. And they were, so I'm really glad I asked, because you've definitely provided the other side of the argument. So I'm happy to have a sort of balanced thing. Right, I reckon we should probably wrap up, gents. This is a long one.
Yeah, so thanks, Johan, for joining us, and congrats on your run. Like, I hope you are not going to be on fire in Krakow.
We're facing each other turn one.
Yeah. You've forgotten, it's Johan, man. Right. He finds the hardest opponent, and then a rough table, and then he turns up late. And then he sits down to play.
That was just once.
Yeah, but it stuck in my mind. Get stuff done. All right, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much, and thanks for listening. Johan, well done. Bravo.
Yep.
And
thanks for having me on.
Yep.
And yeah, thanks for the nice discussion.
Cool. Look forward to the next episode, and see you guys soon. Tomasz, anything to finish with?
I just wanted to thank everyone for listening and say goodbye.
Cool. Oh, also, just a quick, a little extra. Hold on. Which is, we do occasionally get feedback from people, like people just saying, "Oh yeah, I like to listen to it," or you said something about that, and just to say that we really do appreciate that, because obviously, like, we do this just because it's fun, but it is always nice to get feedback. Oh, this was great, or that was good or interesting, or I really learned something. And so, just a quick thanks to all the people that take the effort to come and say stuff to us about it, because we don't do it for that, but it's really nice to get anyway. So thanks.
Yeah.
And also, like, if anybody wants to talk about anything or have some questions about the Crucible Guard, feel free to just send me a message on Facebook or so on. I'm always happy to talk.
Yep. Cool.
And feedback about this as well.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.